All right, very cool. Hello, everybody. My name is Jeff Gibby. I'm with Metastock, as you might guess, and I'm going to be talking a little bit about strategy development, strategy design, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I do have something that you're going to really enjoy, though. First of all, it's going to be our legal disclaimer. So I will say, as we get started, if you have questions, or as we get going, or at any time, really, if you have questions, I'm going to make a concerted effort to keep an eye on the chat right here. And so feel free to ask. Also, if you have specific symbols and things like that you want to test or look at, or that kind of stuff, make sure to let me know. In fact, I'm going to need a symbol to look at to kind of start the class off anyway. So the first symbol is going to be the first symbol that you type into the chat is the first one we're going to look at. So I'll let you go ahead and do that. For now, today's demonstration is designed to instruct you SPR. You got it. Warren Buffett is in the crowd, everybody. This demonstration is designed to instruct you on using Metastock and the accompanying software plugins. It is not a recommendation to buy or sell, but rather guidelines to interpreting and using specific indicators and features within the software. The information, software, and techniques presented today should only be used by the investors who are aware of the risk inherent in trading, and Metastock shall have no liability for investment decisions based on the use of the software, any trading strategies, or any information provided in connection with the company. I also want to make it clear, we're going to look at charts today, and I might say things like, oh, I really like that one, or that one looks gross, or stuff like that. I'm not going to, I want to make it clear that I'm not going to make a recommendation that you should buy something. Your risk tolerance might be quite different. Even if I like a lot of stocks that I like, that I end up buying, and they don't make any money. So I just want to say that I'm not recommending you buy anything. Again, I am hoping that I can kind of help you understand some different indicators, some different techniques, and really understand what's going on. So anyway, as I said earlier, my name is Jeff Gibby. I've been working here at Metastock for like 25 years in a row. It'll be 26 in March, and I absolutely love working here. So you can read this. I'm not actually going to read this out loud to you, but just to kind of give you a little bit of background about who I am, I started in inside sales, and that would have been 26 years ago. And that means if you had questions about like our software or trading or what you could do with our software and that kind of stuff, I'd be the person to answer it. And I absolutely loved it. That was a great job for me. The next decade, which is funny because that's kind of how it's broken out. But like for the next decade or so, I actually worked with a lot of different people in the industry. I was in charge of like our affiliate programs here in the US and a lot of overseas stuff as well. And that was really, really rewarding for me because I got to talk to a lot of people that I consider very, very smart in the market, like John Bollinger and Alexander Elder and Steve Bigelow, and work with them about in terms of helping them get their methods ready to Metastock and really Price Headley, really understand what they were doing. And I still do that. I also am in charge of like all of our events and our inside sales, but I love working for Metastock. It's been a really, really good opportunity for me. I use the software every day that I trade to do scanning and stuff, some of the stuff that we'll talk about today. So hopefully you've had a chance to read these bullets. But one of the things I do want to point out is actually when I started was 1997-ish, yeah. And we were owned by Reuters at the time. We've actually purchased ourselves back. We're independently owned by, we're no longer owned by Reuters, but we still have a really good relationship with them. The only reason I bring that up is they're an awesome news feed. They're an awesome data provider. A lot of the information that they provide to us that we provide to you through the software is the same data that you'd get if you're an institution or a hedge fund. In fact, like one of the things, and I won't spend a lot of time in this, in fact, hardly any at all, but one of the actual charts, one of the things I've got open is a news feed that they have spent $1 billion creating. And, but it's been a good separation for us. We're still really good partners with Refinitiv. It's allowed us to focus on exactly what we want to do, and that's create Metastock and make new charting engines and stuff like that. But we've been able to keep the best parts of those relationships. So thank you for the question about providing journal or notes. You can make notes on the chart. I wouldn't say it's a great journaling software unless, like I like to put notes on my charts that say basically bought here or thinking about buying or stuff like that I can see later. And if that's what you want to do, Metastock's really good for that. If you want a legitimate trade journal, you're probably better off even just using Excel, but you can make notes on the chart. And I do like to do that. So there you go. All right. The other thing that I'll brag about, for Metastock is one of the things we're super proud about is that for the last 29 years in a row, and hopefully next year we can say 30 years in a row, we've been voted #1 in our price category for the Readers of Stocks and Commodities magazine. So every year, the Readers of Stocks and Commodities, which is a really good magazine, will vote on their favorite software. And for 29 years in a row, our DC program has won best in category. So we're proud of that. Let's go ahead and kind of talk about what we're going to talk about today. So my agenda today, I'm going to talk, these are what I hope to talk about. Now, my goal for today's session is to kind of get you interested enough in Metastock that you do like what we call an extended trial. And I'll talk more about that later. But what I want to talk about today is like a trading plan. And so I'm going to basically talk a little bit about the importance of a trading plan. I think it's super important to have a good trading plan when you go out and start trading. I'm going to teach you in actual ins and outs of using the MACD as an indicator, the way Gerald Appel designed it. We're going to talk about how to test trading ideas and how I like to pick out the best ones. And we're going to wrap that all up within about an hour. So, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about Metastock scanning and how to scan with Metastock. Again, if you have questions as we go, let's go. Feel free to ask, and I'll be happy to answer them. So, this you can see is like Richard Dennis, and I like to kind of talk a little bit about who Richard Dennis is because I like the story of Richard Dennis. If you're not familiar with Richard Dennis, he was probably one of the world's most famous traders in the 70s. There's stories of him, and I have some notes, but he had taken like $1,000 and turned it into well over $1 million. Very, very successful futures trader back in the day. And he actually, being a very popular, prominent futures trader, he had a friend by the name of Bill Eckhart. And Richard Dennis and Bill Eckhart were good friends, but they had a huge disagreement. Richard always felt, hey, I can teach people what I'm going to be doing, and we could train people to be traders, and there's nothing really too special about what we're doing. It just requires a bit of discipline, and we could teach people our rules. In fact, he said, one of the other quotes, I don't think I have it. Let's make sure I don't have it. No, okay. It was that you could teach anybody the rules, or anybody could make up better rules, but what they lacked was the discipline to do it. So anyway, Richard Dennis, Bill Eckhart, they have this disagreement. Can you teach traders? Can you not teach traders? That was kind of the whole gist of it, right? And of course, the way they decided to settle that was they basically decided to fund traders. And so they basically put out an ad in Wall Street Journal, Barron's, and they recruited, I believe the group, I might have this actually in my speaker notes, some of the numbers. Yeah, okay. Famous trader in the 80s. He turned 5K into more than 100 million. And in 1983, they formed the Traders. They basically taught people how to trade for a couple of weeks. And after a couple of weeks, they basically traded, and it was called the Turtle Traders. You've probably heard of it. It's a breakout system. There's a methodology in Metastock that you can use that is very similar to what they were using, but it was a methodology that was extremely successful. In fact, I had the number up just right there. They turned $175 million in 5 years with these funded traders that they had. And one of the quotes that they had out of that, which I felt important enough to put in my presentation, was I would always say you could publish the rules in a newspaper, but nobody would follow them. The key to trading, I added to trading, is consistency and discipline, which I've always thought is pretty interesting. The other thing that he'd always talk about is he's like, yeah, there's lots of ways you can trade. It's discipline that's important. So with that in mind, one of the questions that I'm going to ask is, what do you think is the best profession for trading? Okay, so in other words, if you're in a profession now, what do you think would give you the best chances of success if you moved over to a trading career? I'm going to let you answer that because I want to see a couple of guesses. Because a lot of the times what we get are guesses like psychologist or psychiatrist or airline pilot. It's actually the answer is airline pilot. So good job, 39476. Catchy name too. Airline pilot. And I think the reason that airline pilots do well is because they have discipline. So when they take off, for example, they take off. They have an exact checklist. They're going to follow those rules exactly, very, very precisely. And I think that is pilot. And actually, a couple of the people that I've worked with over the years come to mind that are airline pilots. A couple of them. I also think psychologist is a good example. But Dr. Alexander Elder is a psychologist, or was a psychologist before he started trading. He wrote a really good book called Come Into My Trading Room. Jake Bernstein was a psychologist, and he does he's got some very interesting methods. But airline pilots, actually, Greg Morris is somebody that we've worked with, ended up managing $12 billion. He's retired now, but he ended up managing $12 billion for stadium money management. And then the other person that I can think of, and I'm gonna do this. Got something in my throat. I'm pretty sure it's not COVID, but the other person is actually Chuck Hughes. It's an airline pilot. So both of those have very, very specific methodologies. So I think discipline's important. I think one of the keys to discipline and kind of how I think it's probably the most important thing to trading, especially when you get into markets like this, like we've been in, where you kind of switch markets and your stops are now more important than they may have been before, and your discipline is now maybe more important than it was before. It's definitely more important this year. So in any case, one of the things I think is also helpful for discipline is having a good trading plan. And that's the whole thing. That's what I'm going to talk about for the rest of the thing is what is a trading plan made of? How do you kind of get an idea of what they are? And the reason that initially when I started talking about this, the reason I started with MACD is because MACD is a very popular indicator. I actually chose it because one, it was the most popular video we had on our YouTube channel. But in addition to that, I knew there's a lot of people that use MACD but don't understand why they're getting signals out of it and how it works and all that kind of stuff. So what I'm going to spend a good chunk of time is talking about MACD. I'm going to talk about how it's calculated. This, by the way, is Gerald Appel. It's another question that I usually ask, but like how it's calculated, 3 different ways that you can use it to get trading results, and then we're going to test it as an idea and compare it to maybe some other ideas. So this is Gerald Appel. He invented the MACD. There's actually Linda Radke popularized another way to work with it and look at it, and I'll give her contribution as we go through it. But in its heart, MACD is both a trend and a momentum indicator. So it can help you identify the trend, which, I'm sure you've heard, like the trend is your friend, or befriend the trend, or rising tide lifts all the boat. The MACD has a way to kind of measure the trend and give you kind of a bullish or a bearish reading based on MACD. It's also a momentum indicator. So you can use it to measure momentum as well. And we'll talk in detail about both of those. So the first thing, okay, now we're going to kind of jump out of this and we're going to talk a little bit about how a MACD is calculated in the 3 different ways. You can see I don't spend too much more time in Metastock because there's like 3 more slides in here. I really like to play in the software when we do it. So I'm going to go ahead and open up a chart. Before I go into Metastock again, let me remember what Warren Buffett wanted us to look at. It was SBR. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And we're just going to kind of come into Metastock right here. If I can get it to be my active app. Let's see. It does not want to be the active app. Hold on just a second. Oh, there we go. Perfect. And if you can't see a chart, let me know. I'm watching the things, but you should be able to see the Russell 2000. Had a bit of a down day today. I'm going to go ahead and close these out though. And we're going to start with SBR. I better type up that symbol so I can't stop looking for it. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close the charts that I've got open. I'm going to just basically go in. What we're going to do is we're going to look at SPR using our Power Console. So right here, I've got the Power Console. Primarily what we're going to deal with today is charting, scanning, and testing. Although there are, we also have a quote window. We won't really be playing too much in that. Forecaster, our forecaster is awesome. We've got a patent on it, but I had to pick and choose exactly what I'm going to look at. I also noticed that I'm in an offline mode right now. So let me see if I can connect to data right now. Just noticed as soon as I clicked on here that I am in offline mode. So I'm going to maybe have to restart real quick, but it won't take very long. Let's see if this will connect. Okay, all right. I kind of expected that. The data feed is ready to go. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to restart it. I should have checked that. My apologies. Let me go ahead and kind of just open up Metastock again, which it's already starting up. In the other room, if I were to do that, I'd have actually some dad jokes that I could give you as we kind of got Metastock to restart. Again, it doesn't take very long, especially since I've got the data feed running. Just give it a second to reload. And I'll give you one of my daughter's favorite jokes. My daughter is in 4th grade, and she came home with a joke. She wanted to know, what is the coldest country on Earth? So if you have any guesses about the coldest country on Earth, type them in the chat box while Metastock gets running again. I'll tell you what it is in just a second, which we're almost loaded again. No guesses on the coldest country on Earth. It's a dad joke. Oh, what new message? Iceland. Chile. Chile is the coldest country on Earth. She loved that joke. Again, it's a junior high joke, but okay. Let's go ahead. Yeah, she loved. I actually giggled too because I couldn't help it. It made me laugh when my daughter. Okay, now I do have data, and again, like I was saying before, there is tons of different data that's available. If I just kind of wanted to show you this a little bit, here we've got all the equities in Asia. There's about 321,000 different stocks you can scan, you can open, and you can test. We're not going to open up very many different stocks today, and certainly we're not going to do a lot of really in-depth scanning, but if you're in, because we get a lot of customers that are in India that use Metastock, or that are in Australia, or that are in London or in different countries, and regardless of whether or where you're at, we're going to be able to get data for you. So let's go ahead and open up SPR. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and click on Open Chart right here, and it should just load for us. And Warren Buffett, thank you for that symbol. I might open with a couple of indicators. I usually go in and ask it for a clean chart initially, but this is actually going to open up with the Jake Bernstein template. I've actually been working with him to kind of create some really cool looking indicators. I'm going to go ahead and close those out though, because that's not what we're talking about today. And all I'm doing is just deleting stuff off the chart. Okay, so all I'm going to be working with primarily is moving averages and the MACD and stuff like that. So the first thing that I'm going to do is add MACD histogram to the chart. Okay, and so right here I've got just basically a bar chart. You can do candlesticks. It's very easy to change things in Metastock. But what I'm going to do first of all is we're going to add a MACD histogram. Okay, and we'll go ahead and do that. Now it'll go ahead and apply that to the chart. We'll go ahead and click on OK. And then we're going to also add a couple of moving averages so that you can actually kind of understand the calculation method that goes into MACD. So when Gerald Appel designed the MACD, basically what he did is he took a 12-period exponential moving average and he subtracted it from a 26-period exponential moving average. So I'm going to add those moving averages to the chart. I'm going to go ahead and make them a bit thicker so you can see them on the chart. But that's really what you're doing when you calculate a MACD. You're taking the difference between a shorter term moving average and a longer term moving average, and that's it. Now, there's some weirdness with the math because he didn't use whole numbers. He used like a 0.76 and a point something. And I can't explain to you how those are calculated, but the closest calculations using numbers are a 12 and 26 exponential moving average. So I'm going to basically go ahead and put those on the chart. And you notice it's pretty easy to add indicators to the chart. I'm just dragging them out of this indicator quick list and setting them on my chart and then just defining what colors that I want. So we'll go ahead and do this. We'll go ahead and click on OK. And that's one of the things that even as when I started, Steve was the founder of Metastock. He always talked about kind of making it so that you really, when you were using Metastock, that he didn't want people to have to really think about how they had to do things. He wanted it to function very much like Windows and to be easy to use and that kind of stuff. And so everything that when you're playing around in Metastock, everything's pretty much click and pick and drag and drop. So anyway, if I was to take the value of this red, the shorter term moving average, and subtract it from this longer term moving average, the difference in that would be this red line, okay, up here. That's a MACD value, okay? And the reason, let's see, I'm gonna go ahead and make the red line just a little bit bigger. Again, I like you to be able to see it. But the reason that it's good as a measurement of trend is you're measuring the difference between a shorter term and a longer term moving average. So right now we're looking at Sabine royalty. Hopefully that's what Warren Buffett wanted to look at. But if we're in an uptrend on Sabine royalty, then the difference between the shorter term moving average is going to be above the longer term moving average. So you're going to have a positive red line. The difference is going to be higher when you subtract the values out. If you're moving very, very rapidly, and this is why it's good at measuring momentum, the shorter term moving average is going to separate from the longer term moving average, giving you a bigger peak or a bigger trough if the other is going down. Okay, so because we're measuring the difference between a short term and a long term moving average, and that's all MACD really is, it gives us a good idea. If it's positive, we've been moving up. If it's negative, we've been moving down. If it's really high, it's been moving up fast. If it's really low, it's been moving down fast. Make sense for everybody? See, there's 2 new messages here. We'll go in. Okay, and then 363062. Great question. What is the signal line? So if you see, and actually that's exactly where I'm going. The signal line right here is just this this blue dotted line. I'm gonna make it a little bit bigger. Okay, just so you can see it a little bit more. But it's the dotted blue line. And it's a 9-period exponential moving average of this signal line. So literally, you're just looking at the moving average of that difference that we were talking about earlier. And it's called a signal line, okay? And the reason it's called a signal line is if the MACD is above its signal line, like it is right here, you would say that the MACD is in a bullish zone. If the MACD is down below its signal line, like it is right in this case, you would say that the MACD is in a bearish zone, okay? And we have a function in Metastock that can help you see this and help you visualize it. I'm gonna go ahead and apply it here. It's called the Expert Advisor, okay? I'm gonna go ahead and click it. It's gonna open up on the wrong screen. I'm gonna move that over to the right screen. But I'm just gonna go down this list and hopefully you can see it. Sometimes I think you should be able to see this with the way that I've shared the screen. But you should see just a list of things. And there are all kinds of what we call expert advisors in Metastock. Here's one on candlesticks, which is, it actually labels and identifies all the candlestick patterns for you. I'm gonna come down here and there's one that's called MACD by Metastock. Okay, I'm gonna attach it to the chart. We're gonna go ahead and click on close. And what you're gonna see is you're gonna see that bullish line. I'm gonna actually put it up here. So when we're above this, when the red line or the MACD is above its signal line, the blue line, you're in a bullish phase, and it actually places that on the chart for you. And that is the first way you can use MACD. Is it above, are you bullish or bearish on MACD? So I'm gonna go ahead and move that back down here. If we're trading above our MACD, then we're gonna be in a bullish phase, okay? Now, if we like that, and we think that the stock has now gone from a bearish phase or a sideways phase into a bullish phase, the natural reaction would be to buy it because we're bullish now, okay? And so that's why we put the MACD. That was a classic MACD buy signal, okay? If it comes down below its signal line, as it does right here, it goes into bearish, you're no longer bullish on the stock, you would go ahead and sell it. And that is the simplest way to analyze MACD. Are you in a bullish phase or a bearish phase, okay? That's it. If you're in a bullish phase and if you think the stock is going to go up, then you'd want to buy. If you're in a bearish, you'd want to sell. And so if we're looking at the hard right edge, which is where we have to trade, right? We just recently got a sell signal back on the 14th, 3 days ago. And during that time, it's kind of plummeted in value, but that's when we would have gotten the signal. Now that's a really good signal. Here was a pretty good buy. Here was a fairly weak sell. This was a pretty good buy. This was a fairly weak sell compared to where we got out. But because this is objective, you're not making guessing decisions, right? You're not trying to decide, well, okay, they're going to hit interest rates again. Probably. Is that going to be bullish or bearish for the stock? What's the market going to do? What we're looking at is, and the thing that I like most about technical analysis is it can be very disciplined in its approach, because we can see where the buy signals are. If I've explained rule number 1 properly to you, you can see where the buy and sell signals are with or without Metastock, right? But because it's objective, you can make the same determination that I do when I look at MACD by Gerald Appel. Okay, same thing. Now, it may not be the best signal or system to work with this. And I still have 2 more rules to talk about a little bit, but that's one of the benefits, I would say, about technical analysis, doing a little bit of a time check. Need to move a little faster. I promised 3 ways. So that's the first. Are you bullish or bearish on the MACD? The second way that you'd use the MACD, before I talk about the second method, we haven't talked about this blue line at all. This blue line is a histogram. It was popularized by Linda Radke. She added it to Gerald Appel's stuff. And it's just a difference between this and this. So it's a difference between your MACD histogram and then the signal line. So you could even just look at the signal line. If it crosses over, you're going to get a cross of 0. And so it's another way to kind of look at it. Okay. The second way, the first way is the signal line. The second way you can use MACD is, remember, I talked about it as a momentum indicator, okay? And the idea behind a momentum indicator, I don't see any examples of it on the chart. I'm going to scroll out a little bit. But the idea of a momentum indicator is if you go too far too fast, there's a tendency to do a reversion to the mean. And so you can use it to look at overbought, oversold regions. I was hoping that we'd see something, but the software isn't even detecting them right here. Okay, but if it does detect them, it will kind of highlight the bars in a little bit of a different color. Actually, let me do just a little bit of a change right here. I'm going to make this into candlesticks. I'm going to go ahead and apply, click on OK. And I still don't see any MACD overbought and oversold signals, but if it does see them, it will give you some advice. And because I actually want to get, I want to show this to you. I'm going to switch charts. Carolyn also wanted to look at Disney. So I'm going to basically change charts real quick. I'm going to just type in DIS here. It's going to pop up in my instrument console. I'm going to use my chart as a template, so I don't have to reset it up. We'll go ahead and select the instrument here. I'm hoping that I can see, and if not, we're going to look at Boeing, some overbought and oversold areas, which I'm not necessarily seeing on Disney either. I'm looking for where it's been maybe really extended in price. Let me do one other thing here. I just want to make sure, I'm going to make it really obvious. I'm going to change this to black and white instead of, so that, no, not black and white. Let's make it black and black. Okay, so that if it is highlighting it, that it'll stand out. Okay, so the issue was that it was painting him red, and so I wasn't seeing him with my red charts. But you see right here, when I set the chart to black, here we have a couple of bright red areas that are a little bit differently colored than the background right now. That's what I wanted to show you. Here, Disney's had a pretty big buck move, and when it starts to signal that you're kind of maybe in an overbought, oversold territory on MACD, it's going to start to give you a warning by painting the bars a little bit different. And I can actually show you even a little bit of a better way to actually kind of explain this to you, because it is explained in what we call our expert advisor commentary. So I'm going to go ahead and open that up. I'm going to go view expert commentary right here. And when I do that, I'm going to point out this arrow right here. I'm just kind of circling it right here on the chart. That's the day it's looking at. So it's going to be telling us about Disney right now. We just had a sell signal on Disney because we did change charts a few days ago as well. And it looks like it was a good signal because it's moved down in the meantime, right? So right now it's looking for crossovers. This is those buy and sell signals. It's saying that it's bearish since it's trading below its signal line. This happened 7 days ago. Since then, the price has gone down 8.5%. Okay. What I want to do though is I want to show you what it would have said back on these bright red days. So what I'm going to do here is actually just kind of move that black arrow over. I've moved it so now that it's right above there, it's the same color as the bar, so now it's red. But what it's saying here, and I'm going to make this a little bit, here we've got this bullish reading. It's been bullish for what, 34 days? And it's went up about 30%. So that's a really good crossover. But it is going to start to give us a warning because that's a fairly significant move that's happened. And the warning that it actually gives us is the MACD is in an overbought range. Okay. But be careful. I added that part. Prices can continue to move higher for some time. Wait for prices to move lower before considering any short positions or even exiting. Because what you'll find is that the trend can remain extended for long periods of time. Have you ever just watched the stock and it just kept going up and you're like, at some time, does this stock not believe in gravity anymore? I'm sure you've seen them before. A good example that I can think of from early in my trading career and when I started trading with my own money was Taser. Taser just day after day after day, it just kept going up, right? And it went up forever. But the reason that it kind of wants to tell you that is like prices can continue in a bearish mode. And sometimes the fact that they're overbought is even more bullish. It means people are starting to pay attention to it, right? So when you get this sort of an overbought, oversold reading, you always want to pair it with another indicator. You could consider looking to improve your stop. In this case, it was a pretty good early warning because MACD started to go down. But I don't want you to know that. I want you to know that that's not always going to be the case. Sometimes it's just going to keep going and you're like, what's going on with this thing? This is a good early warning. You want to compare it with something else. So, and maybe that's just as simple as like moving your stop to the last pivot. Or maybe that's as simple as, okay, like, well, I'm going to wait for a crossover. I'm going to look for a crossover. And even if we would have waited for that, we still would have taken a big chunk out of that trend. That's the biggest thing I know about trend following is you're not looking to get the exact bottom and the exact top. You're looking to find a strategy that takes good chunks out of a good overwhelming trend. One of my favorite technicians of all time, we used to go traveling with him, was a guy by the name of Robert Deal. And he would always say, bulls will make money, bears will make money, but pigs will get slaughtered. And the idea was like to follow the trend and stay disciplined. And I love that saying. He was a great technician. And there you go. The third way, and you can probably see it right here, is divergence. The third way you can use MACD is divergence. And I will admit that it is the more subjective of the three different methods I'm going to teach you. But I'd like to talk about divergence. Alexander Elder, who I mentioned a little bit earlier, always talks about MACD divergence as being the most powerful signal in all of technical analysis. I'm going to kind of show you how it works. I'll talk a little bit about the way that he uses MACD divergence and the way he looks for it. He'll typically look at a peak to peak. The things that he wants to look at is a peak followed by a cross down below the zero line, followed by another peak. And you can also use the trough. So I'm going to use the peaks for this example. I'm going to take my horizontal tool or my trend line tool, and we're going to go ahead and draw this out. Okay, so right here, I'm going to go from this peak of MACD to this peak of MACD, and it's a difference of about 24%. Okay, I'm going to match that, and so that's a negative slope. I'm going to match that to this kind of a similar peak and peak in price, which would take me from about here to about right here. Okay, so this is a downward slope, albeit a small one. This is also a downward slope. Okay, since they're both downward slopes, we're not seeing a divergence here. Okay, now if one of these were poking up, we'd be seeing a divergence. Okay, if we were setting a new high in price that wasn't supported by MACD, sorry about that, let me go ahead and delete that off of the chart. If one of them, if they don't match up, what you're going to get, let me get out of the drawing mode, is a divergence. And Alexander Elder calls that like literally the most powerful signal if it's in all of technical analysis. If it's a bullish divergence, he says it's literally breaking the backs of the bears. He calls it his most powerful signal. We don't have any divergence and we're not seeing any divergence, but this particular expert advisor will look for MACD divergence on a chart. So there you go. Those are the 3 different ways. That's how you look at MACD, how it's calculated, and 3 different ways you can look at it. I'm sure there's tons others. Those are the classic ways to look at MACD. Now, why did I go into that much detail? Well, I wanted you to understand, and hopefully, if I was clear, you understood the MACD, the technical analysis can be fairly simple. Here, we're just looking at a bunch of indicators, right? It can be simple. It doesn't have to be necessarily complicated. If I did a decent job of explaining to you what these are and how you get the signals, you should be able to duplicate this for stuff. The other thing I like about technical analysis in general is it's terribly objective. And I said this earlier, but at no point did I say, well, let's see what the Fed does, or let's see how Disney decides to increase their prices, or how Disney Channel is doing, or all of that kind of stuff. Certainly there's a place for all of that analysis, but this is subjective. And a pure technician will say that all of the expected behavior is built in, and I don't know if I go that far. I think it's good to have good news. But certainly the thing I like about MACD is it gives me a very, very clear idea about what I should be doing. And it gives me a trading plan or business plan around trading. Now, does MACD look good? Because it's objective, I can tell you, we had a sell signal here. The prices dropped pretty significantly from that sell signal, so that was a good signal. This buy signal was pretty good. I would say you would have probably been made money here. The sell signal was excellent. This buy signal was awesome. This sell signal was okay. This buy signal was bad, right? We can visually see this. Because we can visually see them, because it's objective, we can also go in and say, well, how well does MACD work on Disney or Boeing, or what was the first one we were looking at? I'll check in a second because we're going to test. How well does this indicator perform over time? We can test different market conditions. How well does it work? And really, do we need to spend 35 minutes learning about this indicator? Because there's hundreds of indicators out there. Which are the ones that are going to be best for the conditions that we're in? And let's focus our education around those. Now, I wouldn't recommend that you use indicators you don't know how to use. That's certainly not the point of this. But I would recommend that you focus your education on the stuff that's actually worked historically. So that doesn't mean it's going to continue to work exactly the same going into next year just because it worked this year. But I do think it does help you put the odds in your favor. Okay. You bet, Carolyn. All right. If you have questions, I'm watching. So now, one of the mistakes that I made fairly often as a sales guy, especially when I was new in Metastock, is Metastock's a very, very mature program. Even when I started selling it, that it would have been 10 years old and had just started winning Stocks and Commodities Award. And there was already tons of indicators and systems and methods and 8 different charting styles. And one of the things that people I would start to talk about all this stuff that was just included in Metastock, and people are like, well, do I need to know how to work on 300 different indicators? But really kind of the point of the software is to be able to help you understand what works and focus on kind of what works. So I'm going to kind of transition a little bit. We're going to go back into this Power Console. I'm going to go ahead and bring it back over to the right screen so you can see it. We're going to talk a lot about what testing is. So everything we just did is objective, which means if I want to, I can scan for it. I can find that buy signal on any chart in the universe, right? Well, in the US universe or any of the universes we cover. It also means I can say, well, what if I bought every time it gave us a buy signal? And what if I sold every time it gave us a sell signal? How is that going to work for me? Okay. And so what we do for that, I'm going to skip a couple things right here. We're going to go straight to the system tester. For stuff like that, we're going to go in and hypothetically test exactly that scenario. Now, what I don't have is a list of favorites. What I want to do is actually select a whole bunch of these methods, but I want to make sure I spend a little bit of time including ones that I know are built into the program for you. So all of these are, I probably won't go through this entire list, but I am going to select ones that I know I definitely should include. Don't include optimization. You can optimize. That involves testing a whole bunch of different variables around things. I'm going to skip those just because I don't want to get into the hazards of overly optimizing. But I'm going to select just systems that I know are built into Metastock as part of the product, because you can also create your own. You can buy them. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all of these performance systems as well. And that'll give us, there's also probably some Elliott Wave systems. I think in total, there's a few hundred systems that you can actually scan for, test, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But all of these PS ones are built in. I'm going to select, oh, actually, what am I doing? I'm doing stuff the hard way. Let's do it this way. Okay. I was like, oh yeah, I should just select them all at the same time. Why if I select them all at once? So I've got 100 systems selected, and I'm fairly confident none of those are going to optimize, and all of them are included as part of Metastock. I'm going to test a back. I'm going to do what's called a system back test. We're going to include Disney, Boeing, which is a stock that was asked for a little bit earlier by Earl. We're going to do Tesla. And you know, as I can do is, one of the things I love about our system tester is you can do as many stocks as you want. Like there isn't a limit. You can just type in the symbols and it'll actually test them out for you. And SPR, okay. Okay, so Disney, Boeing. I actually just want to do a real quick search on the symbol. With Tesla, I think it's .o, but sometimes it requires, no, I'm pretty sure it's Tesla.o. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to have it do a system test. So it's going to take these 100 ideas, and one of them will be MACD, but it's going to, I'm going to say how well did they work on these 4 or 5 stocks. Now I could do a couple hundred. Our system tester is fairly awesome. I could do all of the optional stocks. It does take a little bit longer to do all of the optional stocks, but I'm just going to do these 4. Okay, I'm going to do long trades and short trades, so I'm going to do both of those. And I'll have it test maybe about 500 records. 500 records on a daily basis is going to be about just under 2 years. There's about 252 trading days in a year. So let's do 504. That should be pretty close to 2 years, okay? Now when I have it do its hypothetical test, I'm going to set up some parameters for it. So under account, I'm going to have it start with, we'll do 10,000 for its simulation account. And in terms of sizing, when it buys a stock, I'm going to have it say, I'm going to tell it to spend half of that $10,000. So when it takes the first trade, it'll be 5,000. If the account grows to 20,000, it's going to be doing half of whatever's in that account. SPR, not SVT. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll change that. Thank you for pointing that out. Okay. In terms of other ways, things that we have control over, you can put in commissions if you're still paying them. You can put in margin requirements. I'm not going to do any margin. And for trade execution, what I'm going to have it do is what we call realistic market prices. And with that, what it's going to do is it'll look at the end of the day to see, or the end of the bar. In this case, we're looking at dailies. But the end of the bar, and say, does a MACD buy signal exist, or whatever the buy condition is. And if it does, then it'll buy the stock. But since the bar would be closed at that point, it'll buy it the next open. So we're using that to be the open of the next day. So that's what we call realistic. You can, like I make most of my decisions in the last, like right now, I'm not going to be able to trade today because I'm doing a presentation, but I usually come in like right now and I'll run a scan and then I'll decide to buy at the end of the day, right? Like just within the last 10 or 15 minutes is usually what it takes, because I know what I'm scanning for. I know what I'm looking for. I just run my scan. If there's anything I really like, I go ahead and buy it. And then I check all my open positions, and it's not really a dramatic process. It's very unsexy. So, but like, if that's the way you're trading, you might just want to take out realistic and test buying on the close, selling on the close, and that will be the default. And you can kind of control what that is. I'm going to leave it at the default though for realistic market prices. So I'm going to go ahead and click on OK. I'm going to go ahead and fix that to SPR. Thanks, Mr. Buffett. It's good to see you too. All right. So now we're going to test 100 trading ideas against 4 stocks. It's going to run 400 tests. I'm going to go ahead and start it. It's going to go back about 2 years, 504 daily bars. It's going to take every buy signal, every sell signal. Actually, my math's a little bit different. There must be an optimized system because it's actually going to do 1,200 tests right now. It's still going to be able to complete, but the idea is we should know why we're trading, but tell us the indicators and the methods that work. All of these systems that I'm testing right now have matching expert advisors, so we can go and see after we're done why we're getting a signal and where it's coming from and that kind of stuff. So because there is a simulation, or because there's an optimization in there, it's taking a little bit longer to run, but not that long. So I'm going to check the time. I'm doing okay. I need to move it up a little bit, but we have plenty of time to kind of wrap up what we're doing, and we'll let it go ahead and finish this. The system test that has the optimization was that moving average penetration. It must have been testing a lot of moving averages because it sat there for a while. It's going to chunk through the rest of these really, really quickly. And to run 1,200 tests and tell us which ones work best and which ones don't work good, and to do the last 2 years of data, it's actually really, really fast. Generally speaking, when I run full market scans, it can take a little bit of time, but it's not too bad. I remember, and if you are doing a lot of testing, a hint I would have for you is if you have an SSD, it'll run way faster than if you don't. Let me go ahead and click on the view results here, and we'll go ahead and do this. So just starting from today, we went back 2 years. So we went through a really bearish period in the market this year, and then a fairly bullish. So we've tested kind of some pretty good market conditions, right? Now what I've got here is for all of those 100 tests that I run, if the bar is green, it was profitable over the last 2 years. If it's red, it was unprofitable, okay? And what I'm gonna do is just sort this based on the average net profit. And what I wanna do, and I think it's funny, MACD was best. Well, there you go, gentlemen and ladies, I taught you the best system that performed on those stocks best. Actually, it's unusual for MACD to be the best, but it was, in this particular case, on those 4 stocks, MACD was the best performing system. And on average, because it tested all of the stocks, it's giving us average numbers. On average, across those 4 instruments, it would have made about a 30% net profit, okay? With the best profit out of those 4 stocks would have been 5,000, and the worst profit would have been about 900, okay? On average, so this is per stock, it actually was pretty active. Over 2 years, it traded 83 times, which means over 1 year, it traded 42.5 times or 41.5 times, which is quite a bit in any given year, especially if that's per stock. For every dollar, this is your average profit versus your average loss. But for every dollar we lost, we gained $1.58 on a profitable trade. So that's what that means, okay? And generally, the things that obviously you're gonna wanna focus on systems that work well. I taught you a really good system today. Not stocks that don't work well, or systems or methods that don't work well. But I also like to, for me personally, focus on how often it's trading. So 83, 41 trades a year is quite a bit, actually. And for me, I don't know that I would want to trade that often, but it's definitely better than 94 and 237. And some of the other options, this percentage crossover made 22%, and it only did 65 trades. So on average, which is quite a bit fewer than 30. This one here, actually this fractal trading system number 1, traded 32 times in 2 years, about 16 times a year, a little bit more than once a month, right? So that might be a little bit more my style. I might want to do MACD though, because 21% is a lot better, or a lot lower than 30%. So, but it just kind of depends. You want to find something. I certainly, even if it was 228, I wouldn't want to do it. Okay, for the purpose of kind of just showing you how you can use this to kind of shortcut your learning system though, I want to show you something that's not MACD. So I'm going to show you the fractal trading system number 1. So I'm going to go ahead and view this on a chart. And here's Disney. It didn't work at all on Disney. On Boeing, it worked. On Tesla, it was the best. And Sabine Royalty, it worked pretty well on Sabine Royalty. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and also sort this by net profit. Okay. And again, if I had tested 5,000 all of the optionable, like all the 4,500 optionable stocks, you'd have 4,500 bars here. So not only does it help you figure out what are the best performing systems over a broad market. It'll also help you narrow down maybe the stocks that you want to pick as well. It does a really good job of both of those. And a lot of the system testers that we see out there, or that I've seen out there, will allow you to do this kind of testing. And some of them are really, really good, but not a lot of them will allow you to do it over huge baskets of stocks. And that's one of the things I really like about the MetaStock testers. It can help me find the best idea over a broad array of stocks and really kind of figure out, okay, if I have a feeling, if this works profitably on most of the S&P 500, it's probably going to work on the stock I pick, I would think. I need to say I would think because, regulations and stuff. But in addition to that, if I could narrow that to the 20 that worked best, that's giving you a lot of numbers at the very minimum. So right here, we've got Tesla. It was over the last couple of years, it made a 68% gain. I can come in here and click view. I don't have time to get very deep into this, but it will tell us what our profit looked like, how that compared to buy and hold. It actually outperformed buy and hold by 513%, which is not surprising. Tesla's been kind of a rock lately. It'll give us buy and hold index. It'll tell us a profit loss. All of these numbers, there's a few of them that I really, really like. I'm going to wrap this up though, just so I don't go long. But if you ever have questions, one of the things I like about MetaStock too is it's got a very intensive help file. So if I click on help, it'll tell you what all these numbers are. The one thing that I do like to look at, and the one thing I'm not going to skip, is this equity line. So right here, this gives us an idea of how well our equity would have performed over that 2-year period. And, we did have some pretty good drawdowns from here to here, okay? But I don't see anything catastrophic. So the force index system, I don't know if I include, I'm not sure. But if you, the force index system, I think you can test as part of the Elder add-on. It's one of his systems, but I don't think it was included in this task, Carolyn. Okay, I can plot this on a chart. I can see what it looks like. It's going to kind of give me a lot of information. And there are numbers I like in there, like risk versus reward, profit versus loss. Those are things that I want to know. If I kind of look at all those numbers, I'm happy with it. The next step I would say that's a logical step is learn about that indicator. I don't want you to skip your education process, right? What is this? I forgot what we were looking at. What is this fractal trading system, number one? And to get to that, I actually should have switched to Tesla. I'm going to do this a little bit backwards, but we'll go ahead and jump into Tesla. I'll just open up the stock. And then I'm going to attach that force index, or not the force index, the fractal system number one to this. It's actually the PS fractal trading system. And it's going to tell us how it's calculated. And I can almost recite it from heart. Oh, I had the wrong signal in there. Don't worry about that. I'll fix that in just a second. So let me find the fractal system number one. I'm going to go ahead and attach. And what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to make it the right symbol, TSLA.O, real quick. Okay. Now, here's our fractal trading system number one. Here you could see it went short here. That was actually really good. It had a short here. Okay, so now you can visually kind of look at when it's going short. But if I wanted to learn more about why we're getting signals, again, I want to trade with discipline. I think understanding your indicators will help you with that. If I want to understand where this is actually created, I'm going to go to this sell signal. On the sell signal, it's going to say if you're trading long, you should get out of your long positions. If you're trading short, you should enter short. But it's also going to tell us what we're looking for. So while there are many definitions used for fractal in securities trading, the definition used by this system is a minor version of a type defined by Bill Williams and his K-aspect trading methods. According to Bill Williams, an up fractal is defined as a middle bar with two lower highs on each side of it, okay? A down fractal would be the reverse, a middle bar, a low with two higher lows around it, okay? This system will look to trade when it penetrates that one of those fractals. So if we look back here in time, here we had a fractal. This was a down fractal, a low that's surrounded by two lower lows, okay? When it penetrated, that's what gave us the sell signal. Now, it does say that this system is based on a small fraction of Bill Williams' complete trading system. If I want to learn more, I know this system works well, I know kind of what it's doing, I could actually look up Bill Williams, I could look at the manual, I could learn more about what fractals are. But you do want to think. The other thing that it says is So it says how the system works. It also says in some of the systems that are in the performance systems, it actually tells you to use stops. And you can test different stops as part of it. So it's a very, very cool. And it's actually pretty easy to set up. I'm not going to, just because I don't have time. The last thing I want to show you in Metastock, though, before I kind of wrap up and make way for the next speaker, is the scanner. Because like I just said, maybe a few minutes ago, that when I'm using, I just run a scan every day. I want to go in and find the opportunities that exist. If you like the fractal system, or if you find a system that you like, right now we probably wouldn't by buying into Tesla, because we're selling into Tesla. We'd be waiting for a signal to show up. Our last signal would have been right here. But if I wanted to find an opportunity that exists on the market today, that's the tool I use every day. And that's a tool I hear all the time. It's my favorite tool in Metastock. Allow me to find the opportunities. Allow me to ignore the noise. There's 4,500 optionable stocks. I want to find the ones that have an opportunity for today, right? I want to be able to ignore that. I want to be able to get all my work done so that I maintain good status here at Metastock. And I want to be able to focus on my work, but I also want to be able to trade. And that's why I can trade for just so little every day. If I want to come in here and run an exploration, which is our word for a scan, I pick it. I go ahead and just type in PS fractal. I could run this exploration. Right here, I've got it to set against the S&P 500, the NASDAQ 100, and like the Dow Industrial. So about 627 stocks are selected. I'm going to go ahead and run that. Again, if you're in India and want to do Indian stocks, you can. Whatever markets that you want. But what it's going to do, and I keep getting windows popping up, it's going to go in. I don't know where that window is, somewhere over here in cyberspace. But it'll run that. It'll give me a list of stocks, and those are the 4 or 5 that I can focus on instead of focusing on a bunch of stocks that don't have a signal I'm interested in. I absolutely love scanning. So let me go ahead and kind of just get back into the slideshow here. At the onset, I said, AJ asks, hey, AJ, how's it going? Can Metastock send signals to API to different brokerages? Not yet. And one of the things we've been kind of core focused on is like making the technology better. And so we've done a lot of changes to that, but we don't do semi-automatic things. It's good to see you, AJ. Let's see. Again, I will say that for 29 years straight, it's been rated #1 in its price category. And I love all of the customers that have been voting for us year after year after year. We have customers that have literally been customers for longer than I'm an employee, and I think that's because it's helpful. We have 2 different versions of the program. I'm just going to go through this real quick. We have the DC version, which includes the news platform I was talking about a little bit earlier. They spent $1 billion developing this institutional news feed that we call Zenith. It's powered by Reuters News and Reuters Information. It's literally the same thing that you'd get if you were a hedge fund, only you're going to get it with Metastock for only $265 per month. Okay. What we're going to, I'll tell you about what we're going to do as part of the offer. Well, I'll tell you about the offer in just a second. So the normal price is $265. We also have a DC version. It doesn't include that $1 billion news platform, but it'll do everything I showed you today, like the scanning and the testing and the thing, everything, the expert advisors, the alerts, the signals, all that kind of stuff. That's all included, and it's only $69 per month. And both of those prices include data for one of the regions. The regions are North and South America, Europe, Middle East, and Africa, and Asia Pacific. Those are all that we also have as part of those regions: Forex and futures, and there's 200 or 300 exchanges. Like it's a massive amount of data. We'll have the region that you're interested in. So for $69 per month, or for $265, you'll get the real time. What we're going to do as part of our trial, we call it our extended trial. So if you buy a month, we'll give you the 2nd month for free and the 3rd month for free. And you can do that with either the DC version or the real-time version. With that, we're going to give you our latest version of Metastock, which is Metastock 18.3 right now. We'll give you the data region of your choice again. It's going to be North and South American stocks and futures with Forex, or Europe, Middle East, and Africa stocks and futures with Forex, or Asia Pacific. Okay. We'll give you what we call a white glove installation appointment. With that, somebody's going to actually call you up. They'll set up a time, a 2-hour window. They'll give you a call and they'll be like, here, do you have everything installed? Do you need any help with installation? Do you want to know, do you have any questions? Do you want us to walk you through a scan? That kind of stuff. They'll really help you kind of figure out everything. And we started doing that a few years ago. I think it's been 3 or 4 years ago, and people love it. In general, though, while I'm talking about support, and because I have 3 minutes, we keep more people in our support team than we do in sales and marketing put together. I don't think we have more support reps than programmers, but it's pretty close. So if you ever have questions, unlimited access to support. And it's not unusual for our support team to get perfect 100% ratings. We query everybody. They do a really good job. They're here in Salt Lake City with us. And I think one of the big advantages you have if you go with Metastock, and I'm 100% biased. I love the company. I've worked here forever, but I think one of the big advantages is the people. And Rao might be able to, I don't know, Rao, you said you were using Metastock. Have you talked to our support desk before? And hopefully if you did, that's a loaded question. It was a good experience for you. But for the most part, it's a really, really good support experience. So you'll have unlimited access to that support desk. Any questions that you have, it's all free. You can chat with them. You can call them. You can email them. However, you could send them a piece of letter if you wanted to. I wouldn't, but they would respond to it by letter. So we'll also include your Unleash the Power of Metastock, which is just a set of training videos. We covered a small portion of Metastock. You remember, it's a very big tool. And I always am proud of that too, because if you grow as a trader, as you grow, there's so many programs that cost so much more money than Metastock does, that do so much less than Metastock does. And I just think Metastock's a program that can help you right away. And as you grow as a trader, you're not going to outgrow it. So, and for $69 a month, that's $23 a month on the extended trial. And you'll be running it till, December, January, February, until Valentine's Day for $23 a month. And by then you'll be able to really get it through its paces. There's a reason it's been rated so highly for so long. So try it out for $23 a month. Anyway, if you have questions, you can give us a call at 800-882-3040. You can chat online with us at metastock.com/sales chat. If you prefer just to sign up at metastock.com/LP. So there you go. I do want to say very quickly, thank you for all the good questions. Thank you for David and you guys for having me. I appreciate it. And I think that's my time. Thanks everybody. If you need me, drop me an email, jeffrey.gibby@metastock.com if you have any questions for me. All right. That's it.
Thanks, Jeff.
All right, you bet. Thank you.
Great having you here.
Yeah,
Thanks.
glad. Thanks for having me.
All right, so Jeff was our 7th presenter for today. We have 2 more to go in this event, and AJ Brown is up next. AJ, are you there?
I am.
All right, I'm going to turn off Jeff's share, and you should be able to share your screen now.
Okay, give me 1 second. Share screen. Share screen 3. All right.
All right, and okay, I'm all set up, and you're ready to start, right?
I am.
All right, oh wait, hold on.